Good morning and happy hump day, everyone. So, guess there's no way. I guess there's no simpler way to start than doing my low, my high, my act of kindness. I would say that my low is it was a fairly late night for me last night in terms of heading home from my folks. Frankly, I barely even got to see my mom, if we're being honest. I mean, I did get to see her, and we had dinner together, and it was great. It really was. But they had to work on something very important pretty much after dinner, and this is like at 9 o'clock at night. And I really had to get back here, so yeah. Didn't really get an opportunity to see my mom as much as I would have liked to last night. Hopefully tonight will be better. My high was, speaking of my mom, Tuesdays are days where she watches my nephews, and I got to see my nephews yesterday. They played in the pool the entire time they were here. It was great. It's actually funny. Technically, they have a commitment. They do Taekwondo. But the deal is, if they don't go to Taekwondo, they have to play outside and be in the pool the entire time. So, yeah, I guess they made their choice. I mean, I never did Taekwondo. In fact, this was like the early 90s when options like that weren't necessarily available to the public. I mean, technically they were, but it never crossed my parents' mind to, put my brother and I in that stuff. So, yeah. And my act of kindness was I emptied the dehumidifier for my dad, took out the garbage, made sure my nephews were safe the entire time I was watching them, and yeah, that was about it. So, on the one hand, this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for, quite a while. But at the same time, I kind of don't, because I don't want to because there are certain people I really don't want to get upset with me. But on the other hand, like, for years my mom was telling me about, I'm convinced my mom has no idea what the word transparent means, as well as several other words she likes to use. I don't think she knows the meanings too. Point is, there's something I definitely want to be honest about. And, I guess with school coming up, in fact, if I was in college, I would have already started school pretty much. I think, why not? It's why I don't really talk about the college I went to very much. Now, for those of you who don't already know, I actually do have a bachelor's in health sciences from Gettysburg College. And I'm proud of the fact I'm a college graduate. I really am. But there were a lot of things that ultimately ruined my overall experience and enjoyment of being there. In fact, and keep in mind, a lot of this, I'm not free of blame for this, because in terms of reading and studying, I really was not a very good student. I went to all my classes. I, showed up on time, early even. I was certainly never one of those students that went out partying every night. But I just didn't like to read or study. I mean, after I was done with class, I immediately went back to my room to, just watch like YouTube videos and play Pokemon on my Nintendo DS at the time. That's pretty much all I did. Honestly, it literally took the final semester, second semester senior year, before I actually found a kind of groove that worked for me in terms of learning how to study. And by that point, I was taking a class called kinesiology, where I was looking at note cards like constantly. But it worked. In fact, I'll be honest, I told you I didn't like to read or study. Kinesiology was my best grade that wasn't an A because of all the studying I did. Oh, trust me, I think my overall GPA might have been like 2.3 or something. Not, good. Honestly, it's stupid that, why even have the letter D grade if below a C, if a C minus won't allow you to graduate? You know what I mean? You either pass or you either fail. There really shouldn't be any in between. I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, so obviously after I was done with class for the day, and I was a morning student, I wanted to make sure all my classes were done in the morning so I could just relax the rest of the day until I had sports to do. And then there was the sports. Now, for my freshman year, I exclusively did wrestling. And then every year after that, I did cross-country track and field. And there's a reason for that. Because, and again, in this regard, this was not even a year removed after I stopped contemplating suicide. So, I was pretty much just going through the motions. But I wasn't doing anything wrong or negative or disrespectful to people. However, when it came to wrestling, I'll just say it right now, in terms of guys who were my teammates, there was one particular wrestler who was the worst teammate I ever had. The kind of teammate where, he's chummy with you in the very beginning, but over time he shows his true colors, and all he ever did was whine, complain, bitch, moan, kiss ass. Seriously, he kissed the coach's ass so much there might as well have been lipstick marks all over it. It was unbelievable. He really showed his true colors when we were working on this one move that, frankly, I was never going to use. I never had any use for it. And unfortunately, I can't really show you how it works without another person being here. But basically, it's the kind of move where, you're kind of on your butt and, the guy is about to get on top of you. There's a way you can reverse yourself from sitting position. Honestly, it probably works for smaller people, but I was in one of the bigger weight classes. Not to mention, this guy who I'm talking about was, super heavyweight, 285. And it's kind of hard to get around that. So I can't get the move right. He immediately gets up, walks over to the coach, and just starts complaining like a whiny little bitch. It was unbelievable. I don't even want to get into it. And I'll admit, I really never considered myself a great wrestler. But I had enough self-respect to believe that I was working hard. 80 practices we had that year. And I went to them all. Every single one of them. In fact, I actually went to more practices than the guy I just told you about. The worst team I ever had. In terms of guys. Oh, trust me. There's another reason why. I'll get to that in a minute. Another teammate. I'll get to her in a minute. Yes, her. Anyway. So it's the end of the year. It was May 4th, 2010. And the coach kicked me off the team. using the exact same terminology that said teammate I just mentioned used when he complained to me that I couldn't get this one move. I mean, this coach was a real Weasley-looking hypocrite piece of garbage. I mean, here's the thing. When he was a freshman at Messiah College, he got second at nationals, right? He eventually did worse every year he went. And his reasoning for kicking me off was lack of progression. You literally went from pretty much the top of the mountain to near the very bottom. And you want to talk about me about lack of progression. Okay. Hypocrite much? I mean, thankfully, this coach is no longer at Gettysburg College. As for the teammate I just told you about, you're probably thinking, well, I'm sure he probably, wound up not having a good career. I'm sure he probably had bad things happen to him, right? Yes and no. With me gone, he actually wound up winning the Centennial Conference. I wouldn't have been in his weight class, but he actually wound up winning the Centennial Conference. Which, give credit where credit's due. He won the damn thing. He got to go to nationals. Give the man his flowers. He did it. When I was doing cross country and track, specifically cross country, I really wanted to be in the top 5, top 7, top 10. And I got damn close once. Frankly, I would have kicked the asses of both this guy and the coach if I had made the top 10. Because, remember, the coach kicked me off for lack of progression. I can tell you right now, no athlete, no wrestler could have ever made the top 7 or top 10 for cross country and track. Really, it's top 7 and 3 alternates. So top 10. And that's how cross country works. No athlete that's wrestling could have ever done the top 10. Which is why it would have been all more fitting if I, a person who was kicked off the wrestling team, did it. Of course, that was never meant to be. Physically, I could have kicked both of their asses. But the ability to be able to do that and having the confidence to be able to do that are two completely different things. I had the physical might to do it. But if I'm not confident enough up here, it won't work. Not to mention, especially regarding said teammate, I mentioned how he won the Centennial Conference, which again, congratulations. All in all, I had to tip my hat off to the guy. I did. But there are 2 reasons why I ultimately didn't challenge him to a rematch, which I should have done. The first was I wouldn't have been able to beat him at 100%. I'm the kind of guy who would take a win whenever he can get one. But this is the kind of guy where, if we're both seniors, we're both at our physical peaks, you want to take him on his best. And that just wouldn't have been the case. For the simple fact that he would hurt and dislocate his shoulders so much that one of his shoulders could pop out and it wouldn't hurt. When that happens, it's bad. So, there's that. But also, the guy lost his father. Listen, let's say for the sake of argument, I wind up beating him, kicking his ass in the process. What am I going to do that's worse than... There's nothing I'm going to do that's worse than losing a parent. So, out of respect for that, and again, the fact that both of his shoulders are popping off like cherries, I didn't. I took the high road. And if you can believe that, wrestling was just one of several reasons why you don't really talk about Gettysburg College. The other was, I mentioned there was a female teammate. So, obviously after wrestling, I was doing cross country and track. And I'll be honest, I was so out of shape sophomore year, I didn't even want to get into it. That was really going through the motions. But junior year, I got my act together, lost a ton of weight, And, I was ready. And I mentioned that there was this one person who was what I refer to as a do-nothing senior, because he didn't really make the varsity top 10 in cross country. In fact, I don't think he had any accolades to speak of. Neither would I, but I'll get to that in a second. There was this one girl who was a sophomore at the time she did what I'm about to tell you that she did. Because I mentioned that this one senior, who was a guy, was a do-nothing senior. Little did I know that this girl this guy and this girl were clearly, started dating when obviously she was a freshman and he was a senior. So this guy was, long gone. And when I said this guy was a do-nothing senior, I said this back in, August, early September. This bitch waits until February to just confront me on this. How long were you really planning on this for? Not to mention, this was right before Lent started, and every year I was at Gettysburg College, I gave up going to the cafeteria, or what we called servo, for Lent. So that was my last day of Lent for 6 weeks. And she approaches me like this. She then says, beat his time for an 8K, and then you can call him a do-nothing senior. Which when cross country rolled around, that's exactly what I did. The guy's PR for running an 8K was 31 minutes and 5 seconds, whatever. My PR for an 8K is 30 minutes and 30 seconds. I beat that time. I crushed it even. So, believe me, I really wanted to tell this girl off. I really wanted to tell this girl off. The reason why I didn't was because if I had, I'd be no better than that wrestling teammate I mentioned earlier. Funny enough, both the wrestler and this girl were both from the state of Massachusetts. I'm sure that's probably just coincidence. Massachusetts is a very lovely state, very lovely people. But these two royally pissed me the hell off. Those are just a couple of the reasons why I don't really speak of Gettysburg College all that fondly. However, it's not like there wasn't any bad times there. When I was doing cross country and track, listen, if you've ever been around cross country and track people, they are among the nicest people you will ever meet. And very supportive. They were. In fact, if it weren't for them, I'd be saying, forget Gettysburg College, that place sucks. Thanks to them, I can say, you know what? It wasn't all bad. Not to mention, the coach especially, he took me in. And I will forever thank him for that. I told myself that if said coach was about to retire, or sadly about to pass on, and I had one opportunity to see him again, I would go back to Gettysburg College for that reason only. Listen, there really is nothing physically stopping me from going back to Gettysburg College. In fact, if I really wanted to, I could go back and check it out right now. Especially when, the people I talked about, the worst guy teammate I ever had, and the worst girl teammate I ever had, I'm never going to see them ever again. And I mentioned how that weasel of a wrestling coach is no longer there. So, again, I'm never going to see him again. Again, there really is nothing physically stopping me from going. But it goes back to the whole confidence thing I mentioned earlier. Why I didn't challenge the coach or that one teammate I used to have to a rematch? It's just not. I'm just not feeling like I want to go back. I don't have that urge to go back. At least not in a positive light. That's not to say it's never going to happen ever again. I'm sure, like, if I was ever asked to come back, or maybe for whatever reason, some of my old teammates want me to go back, I wouldn't. I'll admit, I really wasn't the best teammate either. Here's how bad of a teammate I was. A few years ago, one of my old teammates got married and everybody was invited but me. Which, ouch. Point is, Gettysburg College was really just more of a time of going through the motions and getting my college education, being done with school forever. That's really all I wanted to do. I mean, remember, I had just stopped contemplating suicide. I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do. Hell, I only did health sciences because, I thought that was the only thing I knew how to do. And plus my mom kind of told me to do it. So, yeah. Here's how much I really didn't want to be at Gettysburg College anymore. As soon as graduation was over, I shit you not, I was probably the first senior off of that campus. Like, I got the hell out of Dodge. I didn't even say goodbye to anyone. I was just gone. So, for sure, some of this grief I totally place on myself, to be sure. But there isn't grief without cause. And, I just explained the people, especially who brought that into fruition. And I want to make one thing abundantly clear. The two teammates I mentioned, the boy and the girl, I forgave them. At least to the part where, listen, they're living happy lives. They haven't done anything stupid to me in years. Just let it go. I mean, you know what they say, you can't have freedom without forgiveness. I mean, I'll be honest, in terms of the wrestling coach, I don't know what the hell he's doing, and the fact I haven't heard from him at all probably means he's probably somewhere else that either he got fired or he's simply not doing it anymore, which, good riddance. Still, it would have been nice to challenge that guy to a rematch. I mean, think about it. I used to be one of his wrestlers, and I still remember everything he taught me. Combine that with a cross-country and track athlete who functions in distance running. I dare say, if I was doing cross-country, wrestling, and track all 4 years of college, I genuinely would have considered a career in the UFC. I totally would have. Well, I mean, think about it. You bust your ass running your ass off running an AK for, a half an hour. You can do the same thing kicking somebody else's ass for 3 rounds. I'm just saying. Someday, I wish I was kind of on the Joe Rogan podcast, because I actually would like to run that theory line. I mean, Shannon Sharp put it great. Joe Rogan's the Howard Cosell of the UFC. I should probably stop talking now. I hope you like this video. If you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, on social media. As always, I'm here helping this video for all of you guys watching Joe today. And we'll be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. And remember, the things want to talk to you, always be here to let me always back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.